Welcome to Artists Supporting Artists. I'm Iz, an artist on a mission to speak to all kinds of people about their creative journey. On this week's episode, I speak to Ash Jenkins, the bass guitarist of the Bournemouth-based band SOS. This conversation was so easy and fun, and we talked all about how he became a bassist and sometimes how he feels like he suffers from slight imposter syndrome. This episode is a great one for anyone who feels like they sometimes don't belong. So, Ash, welcome to Artists Supporting Artists.
Hello, good morning or good evening, I suppose, for you.
Yeah, 7 o'clock here. 7 o'clock. How are you?
Yeah, good. Got a gig today, so all ready for that, and yeah, buzzing to go.
Sweet. Where's that?
That's Upton Country Park Festival there. We've done a few times, but yeah, it's a good one. So yeah,
good.
Looking forward to that.
Is it like an evening thing or daytime?
Yeah, I think we're on about 6-ish, 6, 7-ish, something like that.
Nice, good.
So yeah, it should be good.
Not too much for late night then?
No, not too bad.
That's good. Good. Okay, so I'm going to start off with simple, easy, something that I ask everyone, and that is, what does creativity look like to you?
Well, I suppose it takes sort of all forms. I'm probably going to sound quite a lot like JV and Sparky here, where it's going to cross
That's
over.
okay.
But yeah, I suppose it could just take all forms. You know what I mean? Like for me, yes, obviously it's music and it's art and all that sort of thing. But even like I'm going to ruin the sort of boundary here between rock star and normal life. But like my everyday job. Like landscaping and stuff like that, doing landscape gardening. Obviously, you know, you have designers and stuff which bring like a creative aspect of what these customers want for their gardens, and then obviously we have to go and sort of create that. And even like, you know, I'd say creativity even comes down to almost like problem solving and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like certain stuff that pops up that you have to get over. You know, it's creative to even just sort of, you know, fix a problem. So yeah, it takes sort of all forms, I think.
Yeah, and I think like you said, with talking to like a client slash customer, creativity can also then be collaborative, because obviously with you being in a band with 3 other members, you have to have a shared vision, and sometimes that can be quite difficult because obviously everybody has their own opinion on creativity. But actually talking to JV and to Sparky, it seems like you're all on a similar track, and that's obviously why you all work so well as a band. Obviously it's pretty easy for you and Sparky being brothers,
Yeah.
but having that shared opinion on what creativity is, I think is really good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's definitely like a really important aspect of being in a band, I think, with creativity, is that you have to find those people that are, like you said, on the same page and sort of have the same sort of vision. Like other forms of creativity, like you said, whether it's artwork and it's sort of just you by yourself, then, you know, that's obviously sort of different. It's just totally you and that project. But like you said, with the band, excuse me, it's yeah, definitely really important to find those sort of people that are on the same wavelength, so that you're working together to create your art and your vision, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, being a solo artist myself, it's it definitely shines a light on my creative process,
Yeah.
when I talk to other people to collaborate with things, because
Yeah.
right now, obviously, all of my art is mainly what I want to make, and then if I'm commissioned or if I collaborate with somebody else, then I have to take their needs into consideration. Like, I've been roped
Yeah.
into doing the season hoodie for the ski season that we're in.
Oh,
So it's
awesome.
just like trying to compile so many people's different versions of creativity and
Yeah.
ideas.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, I imagine from your point of view as well, that can be pretty difficult as well, because if you're a certain style of artist, you know, something which is
Mm,
your like your bread and butter, but there's obviously other forms which isn't, and then you have
yeah.
to sort of try and create something which might be a little bit unnatural to your sort of artistic process. Like I can,
Yeah, a bit more of a crowd pleaser, really,
yeah.
because there is like 150 staff this year, and
Wow.
obviously everybody wants to wants to own the hoodie.
Yeah.
And luckily it's a vote process, so there's a few of us and we're all just getting together, making some stuff, and then everyone will vote for their favorite.
Nice.
um, but yeah, I'm so used to kind of doing my own thing, and even with this podcast, it's my creative process. It's what I want it to be.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I think that's a really interesting thing about going from maybe like a solo artist, or playing a singular instrument on your own, to then being in a band or doing something collaboratively, where you kind of have to put your creative opinions on the back burner to kind of like appease everyone else. Because I guess for you as
Yeah.
well, the music of Saints of Sin then to SOS has changed so much,
Yeah.
and you found like a lot of people were like displeased at the beginning, but it
Yeah.
just shows a creative evolution, I guess.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, in regards to that, I suppose, yeah, sort of like one of those things where, I mean, obviously, I'm so happy with the direction that we've gone now, and
Mm,
I would say, like, it took a while for I think Sparky, our guitarist, for people that don't know, um, to get to that point of being quite eclectic with his music taste. I think he admitted, like, back in the early days, he was very like, 80s rock, that and
yeah,
that
pop
only.
sucks.
Yeah, where I think I had a bit more wide range of music probably from the start, whether I'd admit it to him, because
Yeah.
uh, you know he had such strong opinions of music at that point. But yeah, I definitely love where we've come to now, and I think that's the main thing about creativity, is just being totally like down to earth with where you are now, and do
Yeah.
do what you want to do. Because I think you get a lot of people, especially within the music industry, where it's just like they're used to hearing you one way and they'll call you a sellout or whatever. But
Mm,
really being a sellout is creating music which, or creating something which you're not passionate about anymore.
yeah,
And for us,
exactly.
the evolution basically just took us to this point, and we're loving it. So
Yeah, and also flexibility,
yeah,
being able to be flexible within your own creative process to try new things, because you listen to the songs now released as SOS, and I feel like there's something for everyone,
yeah,
no matter what kind of music genre you're into, you're probably going to go to an SOS gig or listen to your music now and think, oh well, I may have not liked 90% of those songs, but there was actually 10% of those songs that I did enjoy, because you're now broadening your horizons a bit more.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to think so anyway.
Yeah, it's good. So for the person listening, obviously we've touched on the fact that you are from SOS.
Yeah,
So if you want to have a little bit of a chat about what you do within SOS, and how everything started with your music and creative journey, and yeah, go
yeah.
from birth, or 10 years old, or 20 years old, wherever you want to go from.
God, yeah, this will be a long story then.
That's okay.
Um, so yes, I'm Ash, SOS bassist, as you can see from SOS. Yeah, I guess where my process had begun, and again, this will be a bit of crossover from what Sparky said,
Yeah.
but I guess it was the parents that sort of got me into it. They would sort of push us to sort of, I say push, they would,
Encourage.
yeah, encourage sort of other hobbies for us to do. Me and Sparky were always close as kids, and we used to just skate all the time.
Hmm.
And yeah, the parents just obviously thought it would be good for us to do other hobbies. So, in the process of that, I ended up playing rugby for like 5 years, a bit of theatre stuff, which ended
Hmm.
quite quickly, if I'm honest, because I wanted to skate rather than go and do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, the parents brought it forward and said, do you fancy learning to play guitar?" And thing is, I know Sparky in his interview said that I started first and then he came on later. I don't really
Mm.
remember it being that way, but to be fair, maybe it was, because I do remember getting a guitar before he did, so that was
Yeah.
probably the event. but yeah, just started learning guitar initially. And then yeah, me and Sparky would be like jamming, and my older brother, and we ended up creating this first band, Mothership, which was the
Mhm.
brothers and Josh from school. Um, and yeah, that sort of just developed eventually into that Saints of Sin. You know, me and Sparky were really passionate about it, and yeah, the other guys had sort of like uni commitments, so
Mm,
we started it with me, Sparky, Josh, and then some other members obviously got introduced along the way.
mm.
Um, yeah, obviously, I know I saw on Sparky's interview, he said I got demoted to bass,
Yeah.
which, you know, was sort of the case, I guess I'd say, in terms of like, obviously, Sparky approached me and you know, you get a million people learning guitar, wanting to play guitar and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I'd say bass players are probably less common to come
Yeah.
across. And so, you know, to be fair, he was proper chill about it and just said, you know, what would you think about playing bass? Would you be up for doing that? Because we'd met this other guitarist that
Mm,
was up for joining. I gotta admit, I was a bit reluctant at the start,
yeah.
not know much about it. But you know, I'm quite an easy person. I was like, look, I'll give it a go. You know, we're after a bass player. I'll see how I get on.
Mm,
And best decision that I made, really.
yeah.
You know, it just feels like my instrument. I'd probably say it took a while for me to actually become a bass player. I did feel for a while that I was sort of like a guitarist playing bass.
Yeah.
Um, and then when like COVID hit, if I'm honest, I really found my niche, I think, with it.
Mm,
Obviously, we were all locked down. I just came out of a breakup, all this sort of thing. So I was like,
mm,
just completely putting myself into my art at that point, and found a load of cool bass players and stuff online, which sort of like inspired me. And you know, actually, really started to delve into the sort of the instrument
mm.
and certain techniques and stuff, which are obviously different from guitar and bass. And yeah, so I really sort of found myself as a bass player, I'd say, in that sort of time.
That's really cool.
So yeah, yeah, it was cool. And then obviously as we've progressed, you know, sort of lost some members, and you know our musical direction was changing. That's when we found JV, who
Mm,
came, obviously, who you know very well.
mm.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I just had to think then.
But yeah, so that sort of brings us to current, you know, today.
Yeah, so good. I think I think I don't think I'd be able to see you playing any other instrument. It looks so natural up there now. Like watching you play,
Yeah.
and obviously, yes, I do know my brother very well. So seeing him on stage, it was funny because I've always seen him on stage because we were both in barbershop choruses growing up.
Yeah.
So it for me, I know when I see somebody being very natural on stage, I think I've got quite a
Yeah.
good, you know, outlook on that because I've watched my entire family on stages my entire life.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, Joshua is very natural, and I don't think I would ever pick you as first of all somebody who wasn't didn't have bass as their first instrument, and also just I think this goes for you and Josh Rose, not so much Sparky and my brother,
Hmm.
but how I'm going to say timid because I think that is the right word, but how
Yeah.
timid you both are in person.
Yeah.
Um, you're because I think Joshua and Sparky are just very full on
Yeah.
characters. And it's funny to think of you and Sparky being brothers in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and but then I see Ollie, and then it kind of all makes sense. It's wild to think how much you just all come alive on stage, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think it's just being in a band, if I'm honest. I think a lot of
Mm,
artists and creatives are sort of like that, where they might be quite like passive, quite shy or whatever outside of that, and then when you get on stage, you know, you sort of blow up a bit.
yeah.
No, definitely that for me. I'm a little bit of an anxious person sometimes. Like even doing this interview, like I
Yeah.
felt more nervous like doing this than I do gigging.
Yeah, which is
Obviously,
crazy because you
yeah,
know me.
yeah, exactly. It's just weird. It's one of those things. Obviously, it took a while for me to get back to you about this thing, and I was sort of honest.
Mm,
You know, I was quite anxious about it because I don't know. Like I would say in a band, like obviously you're with your boys. You're sort of you're in it together, and you have that sort of
yeah.
friendship and stuff, and it sort of gives you that comfort
Mm,
of sort of we're all in it together, do or die. If someone messes something up or whatever it is, at least you're together and
mm,
stuff like that. And I'm quite confident in terms of just like together and what we create. I'm confident in that, so it gives me the confidence to go up on
yeah.
stage and do enjoy it. Whilst you're by yourself, it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. I think also having the anchor of your instrument is
Yes,
really
yeah, for sure.
important as well because I used to I wish I did it more, but I used to perform a lot more during school when I was maybe 15, 16, 17. I would perform quite a lot through music class and having to do GCSEs and A levels in music. I would perform a lot and
Yeah,
I would sing and play guitar, and being able to sit with my guitar or stand with my guitar was a lot more, uh, a lot less daunting than it was just being on my own.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
and there was our final A level performance. We decided as a music group, there was a couple of us who wanted to do the School of Rock song, the song at the end of School of Rock,
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
Jack
yeah,
Black's just going crazy and everything. So we were like, that would be a really fun thing to do. So I was the lead singer in that. So and I didn't have anything because we had a guitarist at the time who was really into Slash, and he was a great guitarist. So I was like, you play electric guitar and just have a
yeah.
great time. But I was left, just me.
Oh
And
yeah,
we had like three backup singers, and they were doing the whole like ooh la la la
yeah,
ooh la la la. And so then I was like, and I was running around the stage, and I was like interacting with them, and like genuinely, like probably not as much as Joshua, but
yeah,
like on that kind of same level of like switch on, right, okay, we're
yeah.
just going to
It's
do this.
yeah, for
And that
sure.
was like, and that was the one and only time I did it because it scared me so much. And like now I barely even do, I think I've done an open mic like twice, and
Yeah,
when I was living in New Zealand, because that was just kind of like my one and only time I did it. And like my music teacher was like, that's how you do a final performance. That was amazing, blah, 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 blah. And because I had like all this praise, I was like, that's it. I'm done. That's fine. Like, I don't need to do that again.
one and done.
Yeah, it was good when it lasted. I've proven that I can perform and I don't
Yeah,
need to do it again.
it must be in
Um,
the genes, must be in the blood.
must be. Well, we are Andrew Vaughan's children,
Yeah,
so what do you
yeah,
expect? Um,
for
but yeah,
sure.
and that one and only time was
Mm,
probably the only, apart from
mm,
singing in choruses and whatever, with that I didn't have my anchor of the guitar.
yeah. Well, I think
um
it's similar for JV, wasn't it? Like, obviously, I watched your interview with him, and obviously, how you talked to him about that sort of difference. Obviously, joining SOS from his last band,
mm,
Capulus, where obviously, like you said, he always had that safety of
yeah,
the guitar, and then he had to just purely be this front man.
yeah,
I could definitely see how that would be a daunting thing for
yeah.
you
And I
and
think
JV.
to put on an act, like to put on a different persona, we I was talking about this with an artist that I had on the show because she has like a pseudonym on socials, to kind of have that barrier of where like you end and the artist begins, I think is quite important for self-preservation.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
because, and I know that Josh JV struggled with this for a while, where it was like, what happens on the stage is on the stage. That was JV, and now I'm Josh, because
Yeah,
he used to really struggle and analyze and think about, the performance and what he could do better. And it's because he wanted to, do the best for you guys.
yeah,
But like, I feel like the best way to go about that is like, right, okay, I'm Ash, the bassist on stage. It's all or nothing. I'm with my boys, all good. And
yeah,
then there's the other side of you, like the
yeah,
landscaper,
yeah.
that that I feel like if people met you in real life and had no idea what you do on the weekends, people would just be like,
Just wouldn't put, yeah,
what?
put two and two together. Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah, it's
sure.
impressive. It's really
Yeah,
impressive.
definitely.
So, with let's stay on a happy note. What would you
Yeah,
say is a really amazing triumph that you've achieved through your time of,
excuse me.
you could be being a bassist or being with the band
Yeah.
or whatever. What would you say that is?
Biggest triumph, definitely as like a band, I would say like our first international gig was a huge triumph.
Hmm.
Um, like we work our asses off, trying to get gigs all the time and this sort of thing. And definitely when we got that first gig in Germany,
Hmm.
it was just super exciting. And again, it's just one of those things where it's something that you dream about as,
Yeah.
playing gigs as a kid to, go abroad and sort of venture out. So I'd definitely say that is a huge one. Obviously, we've played the Guildhall in Portsmouth twice now. Um, Again, that's a huge thing to sort of tick off the bucket list. Big
Hmm.
venue and festival. Um, and then yeah, probably just as I mentioned before, sort of personally, as that feeling of sort of becoming a bass player rather than a guitarist who's playing
Yeah.
bass. Sort of see what I mean? Like that was a big triumph for me. Just sort of really, yeah, finding myself, finding my instrument and my own personal side to my creativity.
Yeah. And do you think, well, you probably do, what bassists did you really like gel to? Like, if anybody's thinking about getting into playing the bass, who would you suggest to listen to?
Uh, the thing is, it's funny because it's not like necessarily our style of music, but
Mm.
there's a bass player called Andrew Goucher who is just insane. He's just so good. He's done stuff for like Michael Jackson,
Hmm.
uh, Shaka Khan, all that sort of thing. Loads of
Oh,
different stuff, like really like just really funky sort of
love that.
bass. Yeah, and yeah, he's just insane. So good. Like tonally, I just think he's amazing. So definitely worth one checking out. Victor Wooten as well. He's like just a bass god.
Hmm.
Um, so again, definitely want to check out. And then also, even though he's not like this, is sort of how I found myself a bit is Scott bass lessons on YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
He does his own channel where he breaks loads of stuff down, loads of techniques, interviews like all these amazing bass players and stuff like that. He is definitely one worth checking out. I know he does like you can pay to actual do lessons and stuff with him, which I haven't done, but there's loads of free content on there, and just really useful, I think, in trying to find yourself as a bass player. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, we I'm sure you know, as being a former guitarist, Marty Guitar.
Mm,
Did you ever used to look at him?
yeah, I've heard of him. I haven't seen loads of
Yeah.
it, but he's definitely popped up.
Yeah, we used to be self-taught, but by Marty Guitar.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think, yeah, YouTube has been such an amazing thing for artists,
Yeah,
and for musicians and stuff. I think that's just
yeah.
so cool. And so, because I actually did learn, I was learning to play bass when I was living in New Zealand.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, because I love like funk music.
Yeah,
um and you really need to learn how to play the bass to be able to like really
yeah,
appreciate it, I think. So
yeah,
so
for
yeah, I
sure.
started off very much with kind of like the funky and the blues. And I think that's, would you say that's like a good place to start?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends um what sort of style you're into, what you're going for. Obviously you have bass players which just literally are like hard hitting, smash with a pick. Do you mean
Hmm.
like sort of punky stuff like yeah, it really sort of depends. But I think it's definitely I think it's the cool thing about bass is that sort of funky element to it. And obviously with our own
Yeah.
music, with like 92 Girl and stuff like that, we add those
Mm,
sort of elements in. Um, and I just think you can find a good mix with it, all cool like sort of percussive sort of stuff that you can get with the bass, sort of cool bass notes slapping sort of ghost notes and stuff like that.
mm,
It's definitely like the cherry on the top, I think, with sort of like bass players and what they sort of
yeah.
bring to a band. But yeah, definitely a good place to start, but it just depends what your preference of
Yeah.
what sort of player you want to be, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm pretty biased in the sense of like I think bass is the coolest. And I'm
I
not
know.
just saying that because I'm talking to you now.
Come on.
Like yeah, like I do just I think I think with bass, and I might be wrong, but this was my experience with it. If and I play guitar, so obviously came a bit more natural to me than
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't. But I felt like I could kind of put something together and it'd be kind of cool and kind of groove with it quite
Yeah.
quickly with bass. You kind of just feel quite cool quite
Yeah.
quickly with bass, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think yeah, obviously I watched the interview with Sparky and he was very nice, obviously bigging up the bass. Um Again, it's and sort of like you said, it's always that instrument. Like some genres you won't have guitar and other instruments. A lot of the time, bass will be there, and it sort of roots everything. Yeah, I would definitely say it's one of these things, isn't it? Like, yeah, a sort of beginner or whatever. Yeah, you could probably do some sort of basic bass sort of stuff anyway. So that's what's
Yeah.
cool about it. But I'd say that's also probably what also has a little bit of the negativity towards bass, where some people will be like, "Oh, bass is easy,"
Yeah.
or they sort of yeah, sort of kick it to the curb a bit. And I think that's just because a lot of the time it will be like that. Guitar players or something will go and dabble on bass, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, I'd rather play guitar," rather
Mm,
than people actually delving into what the bass is, what the instrument is about, and
mm.
and and yeah, just certain different techniques and stuff, which can be technical and and fun as well. So I think it's just that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to, I think investing in the one. I
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely struggle to commit to one lane in all aspects of life,
Well, there's
really.
so many cool instruments about. Do you know what I mean? It's
Literally,
difficult.
there are. I started off playing drums.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if
so
I'm
I've
honest, when my dad first came to me about starting an instrument, I was sort of tempted almost to go drums. I've said this to our drummer Josh
mm,
um, from School of Rock. When I watched School of Rock, I always thought the
oh
drummer
yeah,
in that was so cool, and so I was
when he
actually
like
really
whacks
tempted.
out the drumsticks from
Yeah,
behind his back.
yeah,
So good.
exactly. So I've always been tempted by drums. I've even said to Josh about potentially like learning a bit. He said he'd potentially sort of teach me a bit, and I think just where bass and drums obviously go hand in hand, it's also one of those things where it definitely can't hurt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
From a rhythmic point of view.
yeah. I think the more you learn about a different instrument, you may be able to put that into your own, especially with
Yeah,
more percussion kind of instrument, something that holds
yeah,
and roots down the songs. I think learning more avenues can only strengthen your knowledge.
yeah, for sure,
Um,
for sure.
that's the same with painting for me.
Yeah,
I love to pot as well, and I drawing. I do my trippy tarots. I did your
yeah,
merch. So like, and even though I am a painter, really, like by trade.
Yeah.
And you know, I love more realism and stuff like that. Delving into different aspects of art definitely, even if I think it's moving away from what I root into and what my sole purpose is, I think it only boosts you. You know, you can
Yeah, for
only,
sure.
all creativity can combine into making you a better form of artist.
Yeah, like you said, it's only gonna strengthen, you know, strengthen your creativity and like you said, I mean, even when it comes down to, like you said, people that want are paying you for a certain thing that they need. Obviously, it's
Mm.
just like if you have that in your, that string on, your bow or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
then
different
it's
string to the bow.
yeah, then yeah, definitely can
And
only
different experiences, and you know, there's a lot of times where I'll take something that I've done from a completely different project and think actually that could look, that technique that I found in that aspect of doing the completely different thing could actually work in this,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure,
And yeah, so that's, I think any kind of creative journey is, you know, is great. And I think it's, you're always, my big thing about this is like you're always an artist.
yeah,
um Whether you have a day job or whether you're at university or whether you do it full time or whether you've taken a year break or you've had kids and you haven't painted for 20 years,
yeah,
no matter what you do, you're always an artist, because we all see the world in a creative a creative way, and something that is able to inspire us to make art. I think, you know, everyone, no matter how long you've been an artist, if you're just starting out, if you've been playing bass for as long as you have, or if somebody's just, you know, taken their first lesson, if you're committed and you're passionate, I think that's a really important thing to consider, is that you're always an artist no matter what stage of your journey that you're on.
for sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And because you are, you know, a very proficient bass player, um, let's just bring us down to earth so we don't think that you're this, you know, demigod. What is something that you do still struggle with?
Um, oh, well, it's funny you should say it like that then, because I mean, I know JV struggled with this for a bit. I don't know whether he's over it now, but I do get quite big like imposter syndrome. Um,
Yeah.
you know, the guys in the band are like so talented, so creative. You know, Sparky is just a songwriting, god. Do you know what I mean? Like
Don't let
Josh.
him hear you say that.
Oh God, yeah, cut that out, cut that
Yeah.
out. Josh, like never plays out of time. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
and like so good, such a good improvisational drummer as well. Like he's always
Mhm.
adding things in, which is just like I'll always turn to him in a set or something, just have a massive grin on my face because he would just chuck something in, which I'm like, that is badass. And same
Yeah.
with JV, new addition. He's just like he just literally was perfect for the part. Came in, he just completely owns the stage. From when he first started, has just come leaps and bounds to just this incredible singer with like a whole variety of different abilities and whatnot. So these guys are just an absolute powerhouse, and yeah, just being real, I just get imposter syndrome sometimes. Like it's hard not to. I think when you're with these guys, just feel that I don't know, maybe that you don't belong and stuff like that. I'll admit, like for years, I actually have been at verges of close of even leaving the band because I've felt so yeah, it's just in this point of that I don't belong with these type of people.
Hmm.
It's something I'm battling with. I like to think isn't true.
It's not.
Do you mean like but we're always really all of us, I'd say, are just really hard on ourselves and just are after perfection, right? And
Yeah.
again, it's something which I'm actively working on as well. And I think, JV said the same. We've had gigs before where stuff's not quite right or whatever, and I definitely think we got on a rut at one point in terms of coming away from a gig and being like negative all the time because this didn't go quite right, or this, this didn't
Mm,
happen. And that's something which I've actively tried to change in terms of like, why are we doing this? We're doing this art and to enjoy ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, the ultimate
yeah.
goal is, yes, we'd like to be able to earn off it and make it a full-time thing. But it's one of those things. If you're coming away from every single gig and you're down about it because one little thing hasn't gone right, then what the hell are we doing? We're meant to be enjoying it. So I
Mm,
definitely came to that sort of realization, and definitely am trying to basically just take all the positive from every single gig now.
yeah.
Um, I know sort of like, JV sort of made a joke in his interview about a certain gigs that we've done that haven't been that great, birthday parties and stuff like that.
Mm,
Um, but even with those, it's like, yes, okay, they're not your ideal kind of gig. Yes, we'd prefer to be playing Portsmouth Guildhall or whatever to a couple
yeah.
of thousand people. But in the end, you have to, just take the positive. Here is a
Yeah.
person that is paying us money because they love us so much, for us to play our own music, for their birthday party or their wedding or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. So, yes. So even though I started that a bit depressing in terms of what I struggle with, obviously
Mm,
it's something that I'm trying to get over and try and think of the positives. And again, it's something
yeah.
that I'm always trying to improve myself as a bassist. Um, and I mean, even if the goal is just to try and chase this point of where I feel at the same level as these guys, then
Yeah.
it's only going to improve me as a bass player. So
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really special that even though you see that as a negative of you thinking the world of these guys and you're not at their same level, the fact that you admire them so much and um and you think that you couldn't possibly be on that level of them as them, I think it is so special to show how much um yeah, you admire them and how much you're invested in the band, because I think that's
yeah,
something that a lot of people don't talk about. And I think with when it comes to bands, there's can sometimes be a negative connotation of like clashing heads and
yeah,
a conflict of interest, creativity, and points of view. But you saying that is just like the way that you just admire them all
mm,
and they admire you too. You
yeah,
know, they think that you're a legend and that you know and you're amazing at what you do, and they the way
mm,
that you feel towards them, they feel that way towards you. And I think I can relate in that aspect of, you know, you seeing your brother
mm,
and how much you admire him and you see him doing this amazing stuff and you just think, you know, the world of him. I've always been that way with my brother, that
yeah,
I've just, you know, he's just always been like this.
yeah,
He's gonna get a big head for me to say this, but like he's always just been this like huge shining light, and it's just like he just
yeah,
amazes me. And like even not doing anything as JV, you know,
yeah,
he's my
yeah,
brother.
yeah,
I adore him, and but then when I see him on the stage, it's just like God, like I could never be as as cool as him, and I just think it's so lovely that I feel like oh like I feel that way too, you know,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Well,
it's
sure, and
having
I think, like you said, it's because it's that brother sister or brother brother type relationship,
mm,
and also I think it's just your own personal issues. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm sure it's the
mm,
same with JV to you in terms of that. Obviously, he knows that you're incredibly talented with what you do,
mm,
and it's not a competition in the end. And I guess all I'd say about my point there as well to other people, um, that may be in bands listening or relate to this is that look, there are different aspects to bands in terms of there are always someone who's more of a songwriter, someone which is like handles the social media aspect of things.
mhm,
There's so many different aspects to bands and what people sort of bring to it, and it doesn't mean that just if you're not a songwriter or whatever, it doesn't mean that
yeah,
your contribution, that you're
is
worthless
less.
to the band or whatever. Um, So yeah, I mean, it's just like your own personal thing, but again, it's something that those feelings obviously can't like for my case point, like I didn't, even though I had those thoughts, I never left the band. I didn't let it sort of defeat me in that way.
Yeah.
These thoughts, you have to sort of be positive about it, I guess, and like I said, just trying to improve you as a musician or a creative,
Mm.
like for me, it's always been a point of that Sparky is the main songwriter, and he brings it to the band, and he's usually brings sort of like all the parts, and then everybody will put their twist on it. Whether it's like I rewrite slightly, like a bass riff that I created, and just add sort of different techniques to it or whatever,
Mm.
or if it's Josh, that's sort of change the whatever it might be. Um, that's something which I as a musician want to sort of try and like improve a bit, if you see what I mean. Like
Yeah.
I've already shown them start writing a load of lyrics and stuff which are sort of yet to share with JV yet, some bass parts, all this sort of thing. So again, from my point of view, it's like to be a bit more involved in the writing process. I think it's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a big thing in terms of why my head goes into this sort of place of feeling not maybe on the same level.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's like, at the moment we're writing new music. So, and it's been really collaborative, and I think
Yeah.
this is what's changed from Saint Sin to SOS is that it's been a lot more of a collaborative team effort now in terms of of everything, really, every aspect. And so, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to help with your feeling of imposter syndrome as well,
Mm.
is because you're not just being given something and tweaking it, you're actually really contributing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, for
a
sure.
band would never work if it had four Sparkies, and a band would never work if
Yeah,
it had four Ashes. There has to
yeah, for
be
sure.
those different people. So even if you feel like you're contributing less in some aspects but more in another,
Mm.
the equilibrium wouldn't be the same, and the force of how much you guys are pushing ahead wouldn't be the same without your part in it.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. Yeah, for sure.
and I definitely feel like the way that your band works is that if somebody was slacking, you'd
Mm.
be told about it. So
Yeah.
if you're not getting told to pick up the slack, then you're
Yeah.
on that level. And if
Yeah.
if Ash, who had just picked up a guitar, would see where you are now and where the band is now and where you guys starting off Mothership,
Yeah.
like you said, turning that into a positive of, okay, maybe this gig wasn't what we wanted or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, people are paying to see you, people are streaming your music, you're on Spotify, and you're on these major platforms, you're being interviewed by radio stations,
Mm.
so if when you get in your head of like, oh, like I shouldn't be here, or like, oh, we're not in the place that we should be, or whatever,
Mm.
you then have to think about your like 8-year-old, 9-year-old self looking at you and being like,
Yeah, for
okay,
sure.
yeah, I need to tone it down a bit. Like, we're doing really
Yeah.
well.
And I think it's like same as anything, isn't it? It's because, like you said, if you could take yourself from that point and then see yourself now, you'd probably be like, "Whoa, like, that's awesome,"
Mhm.
But obviously, it's something, isn't it? Like with obviously a slow progression over years and years of practicing and stuff like that, isn't it? So you don't see that
Yeah,
massive jump of progression. It's just like to you, you're sort of just like little
yeah.
little goals. So, but yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same when it comes to art. You forget the amount of techniques that you've had to learn to
Yeah.
get to the point where you think you're shit.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh, like
Yeah.
that was shit. And it's like, actually, the amount of hours I've spent learning to get to this place,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not shit. It's just we have higher standards now, and that's fine.
For
We're
sure.
allowed to keep raising our standards because that's what makes us grow, and that's what makes you guys such an amazing band and also such amazing performers, is that you just hold yourselves to such a high standard. And I think that's why you're, growing the following that you're getting, is because it's just years and years of hard work, and it's paying off.
Fingers crossed. We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
So Can I ask you if you have one tip for somebody who's starting off to play bass? They've never played bass before. They've barely even heard, they don't know any bassists. You know, they've been given a bass for Christmas. What what's your advice?
Ooh, yeah, this wasn't on the question sheet.
I know.
Um, I guess, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If they're picking up for the first time, it's going to be hard to be like, just find what you're interested in, I suppose. If you are interested in the bass and you've picked it up, I assume you've got there from seeing something or hearing someone. So
Mhm.
I guess, to put your research in, YouTube is so handy for this sort of thing, being able to look online and being able to, you don't need to hire a teacher necessarily
Yeah,
anymore. You can do it online. But it totally depends. For us, it was the same. We had a few lessons with the guitar teacher, and then we were self-taught, looked at stuff online, just dabbled at
yeah,
home and sort of self-taught ourselves. So my recommendation will probably be that if would be get a few lessons under your belt, see if you're interested in it genuinely.
yeah.
If you really obviously enjoy the teaching aspects, then obviously stay with them. But if you would prefer to basically just in the comfort of your own home learn, then
Mm,
yeah, obviously YouTube is such a great thing to help you with that. And trying to learn just by ear, picking up by ear is a really helpful talent. Do you know what I mean?
mm.
Um, so yeah, do that. Look into bass players, see which ones inspire you, and yeah, just go from there. Really, I
Yeah,
guess
just
would be
commit.
my advice. Yeah. See if
Yeah,
it's for you,
commit to it.
or if you don't like it, get rid of it and play guitar instead.
Yeah. If that doesn't work, pick up the drums
Yeah,
and
that's it.
just keep. There are so many instruments out there. You're bound to find
You'll
one
like one of them.
that fits you. Yeah. Okay. So quick fire three. Again, sorry, not on the question sheet.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
So
this how it's meant to be done. I saw JVs and Sparkies.
okay,
I'm gonna try and just give straightforward answers rather than ramble
okay.
on.
I asked them one of these, so hopefully you don't remember, or maybe you've already come up with an answer. First one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite SOS song to play? To play.
So a song to play at the moment. Um, not released yet. Monsters is called.
you,
I'm
you
sorry.
didn't do as good as you thought you would.
No.
Monsters. Okay.
Monsters. Yeah. Monsters.
Okay, that's exciting. Do we have a release date? Are we allowed to know that yet?
No release day at the moment, but we are playing it live currently at gigs. So if you want to
Okay,
hear
cool.
it, you're gonna have to get to a gig.
Okay, perfect. Well, yeah. Okay, God, I will. Okay. Um, okay. Next one is your go-to like ritual before you get on stage.
Go-to ritual. Uh, it's probably three. It's just warm up, play a few riffs,
Mhm.
um, have a beer to
Yeah.
calm the nerves. If I'm
Yeah.
honest, that is a ritual. And just sort of jump around like a loon, get warmed up for our
Yeah.
for our stage performance.
So you don't have any like superstitions that you have to do, like touch your nose, hit your head, touch the ground?
No, no, nothing like
Not like
that.
a rugby player trying to like score a conversion.
No, yeah,
You
pretty
know, like where
boring
they
if I'm
do the whole
honest.
like,
Warm up the
yeah.
fingers. Yeah, jump around, get the body moving. That's about it, really. Have a beer.
Oh, okay. Last one. If music never existed, what would you think your creative outlet would be?
Ooh, ooh. Um, probably sport or something.
Yeah.
Um, only reason I gave up rugby was for the band because obviously just due to injury and stuff. But obviously,
Mm.
yeah, I suppose, yeah, probably would be some kind of sport. I
Yeah.
suppose
Cool.
creative outlet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't ask that directly to Sparky, but I did speak to him about, what other creative outlets he had, and he was talking about um like film scoring.
Yeah,
But I was really surprised that he didn't say drawing because I don't think a lot of people know how much of a great drawer he is.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it just shows where his head's at. He's so passionate about
yeah,
just any form of music. That's where he's
I didn't
gone.
know
But
whether you had some form of drawing talent up your sleeve or something.
oh no, no way. I mean, I've like dabbled a bit, but like I have to basically look at something and draw it.
Mm,
I'll be all right at that sort of thing. Like it'll come out half decent. But in terms of
yeah.
literally just creating something out of thin air, out of my mind and being able to draw it, it would just be an absolute
Mm,
disaster.
yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Sparky's and yeah, really talented artist. Um, you know, it's mad. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
painting, drawing, like graphic design, like anything like that. Sparky's really good at. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I suppose sport is creative, is it not?
It really,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
it
yeah,
is.
I think that's probably what I'd do. Like apart from the band stuff, that's the sort of and apart from my job, obviously, from
Yeah.
doing the landscape gardening, yeah, probably sport. I've always sort of been into doing like just gym, really into rugby, playing a lot of golf at the moment, like an old man.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, okay,
But
you're
yeah,
getting there.
it'd probably yeah, that's it. Definitely getting to that age now. But yeah, it'd probably just be some sort of sport, I'd imagine.
Well, like you said, creativity is about problem solving, and I don't know, I'm not a sporty person, but I'm sure that there is some. Well, I say that, but I do snowboard, so like
Yeah,
I do all the fun board sports. So, but
sure.
I just in my head like sports is like tennis and rugby and I don't know
Yeah.
some intense thing. I find all of like the board sports just fun.
Well, like I
Um,
said, like yeah, surfing, skateboarding, like did all that, really enjoyed it.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know, maybe I'm getting too old for that sort of sport, like rugby or skateboarding.
never.
Do you know what I mean? I remember I got really into skateboarding again not that long ago.
Mm.
Probably was better than I was when I was skating back in the day, and then I hurt myself, and it just brought me back to reality.
Well, they always say you got to get back on the horse.
That's it. That's it. You never know.
Because and actually saying this, talking about being too old because that's ridiculous. But Dom, my partner, for those who don't know him, his grandpa started to learn to snowboard when he was 53, and he is currently the USA's oldest competitive snowboarder.
No
And he's
way.
79 and he still does half pipe. So
That
don't
is
come at me
amazing.
saying that you're too old because he was 53 and he's still doing it
God,
and he's almost 80.
puts me to shame. All right, you've convinced
So,
me. I'm getting back on that board.
yes. Okay, nobody tell me off if you break an arm. Okay, cool. So, well, good luck tonight. That's going to be super fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It is absolutely roasting today. It's been
Oh, it
so hot
is?
this week. Yeah, it's like up to 27 today,
So
so
good.
that stage is gonna be hot.
Yeah, it is.
But
It is.
yeah, really looking forward to it. So yeah.
Well, I'll be sure to see a photo with you with all of your tops off, sweating like morons.
Yeah, yeah, that'll probably be the case.
Yeah. Well, have a great time. Thank you so much for coming on. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It wasn't too scary.
No, I definitely
Okay, good.
relaxed a bit.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you so
Awesome. Thank
much.
you so much. Take care,
Thank
Rosie.
you.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks again to Ash for being on the show. It was amazing to have a chat with him. I hope this conversation helps you to believe in yourself more and to remind you to not compare yourself to others. A reminder that Artists Supporting Artists comes out every Tuesday, so make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you don't miss an episode. Thank you, love you, bye!